Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Adnan Nawaz.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome. I wish I could be that guy, though. And he is coming, yeah. You're stealing my thunder, and I'm going to steal a bit of his. Because before we begin the panel discussion on sport and the role it can play in development, cohesion, and opportunities, business opportunities, because sport, it's all about making people smile, but it's also about bringing people together, and it's about creating a national identity, of course. And sports business is huge. Just ask Nike and Adidas, for example. So before we begin that panel discussion, a presentation from a very special man indeed. He became in 2007 the first Egyptian to scale and get to the top of Mount Everest. When he was 11 years old, he's going to tell you this himself as well, I think, he was diagnosed with asthma. His parents took him to the doctor. The doctor said, you know what, this is not going to go away unless you start to exercise. So he started running, and he was playing basketball, he was playing squash. But when he was 16, he fell in love with mountaineering. And that has been his passion ever since. So today, in 2015, he continues to climb mountains, but he's also founded the fastest growing travel company in the Middle East, which is called Guanabana. But possibly the best is this, is that later this year, he is due to become the very first Egyptian to go into space. And you know who he is, so here he is, Omar Samra, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can I get the slides on the screen, please? Hi, can we get the first slide on the screen, please? Okay. How's everybody doing? Excellent. From the dawn of time, man has been fascinated with the notion of pushing boundaries, trying to be the strongest, the fastest, the smartest, trying to go to the furthest place, the most inaccessible place, even the highest place. None has this been more prevalent than in the field of exploration. In 1978, a famous climber by the name of Reinhold Messner not only became the first man in history to climb Mount Everest, but did it solo and without the use of supplementary oxygen. 2 feats that were considered impossible before then. And in 1961, a gentleman by the name of Yuri Gagarin defied gravity and went into space as the first man in history. But this sense of pushing boundaries transcended into the arts. Mozart, from a very young age, redefined the way we communicate and interpret music, effectively reinventing his own classical genre. And in this part of the world, Al-Khwarizmi invented algebra, which is single-handedly responsible for numerous applications that we see in the world today. It is my belief that that spirit of pushing boundaries, of doing the things that at one point we thought were impossible to do, is the single biggest catalyst behind civilization advancement and human evolution. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to try and shed light on how does this spark begin inside a person, and what happens along this long and difficult journey, and does it ever end? And I'm going to try and do this through my own personal story. As Adnan mentioned, my name is Omar Samra. I specialize in dragging myself and heavy objects to high and cold places. This is a photo of me trying to climb a mountain in the high Andes, another one of me trying to climb down that same mountain, and finally a photo of me in West Papua hanging around with a bunch of people wearing very little clothing. I was once asked in a TV interview which person I am in the photo, which I thought was very surprising. And then 2 weeks later, a newspaper article came out with a photo, and the caption read, Omar Samra, second man in the left. About 20 years ago, I had a dream of climbing Mount Everest. But what is Everest? We all know it's the highest mountain on Earth, 8,850 meters above sea level, or just over 29,000 feet. The same altitude the commercial jetliners crossing the Atlantic fly. Temperatures can reach minus 50 degrees Celsius, wind speeds up to 100 kilometers an hour. The amount of oxygen at the summit is about the third of the amount of oxygen we're breathing right now. It takes 2.5 months to climb, and about 300 people have died trying to do this. So why on earth do it? In order to answer this question and many others, I'm going to tell you a little story. I was born in Wimbledon, where the very famous tournament gets played, and I was born right around the same time as the tournament. My parents, quite optimistic, thought that this is some kind of prophecy that I would turn out to be the Egyptian version of Boris Becker. Unfortunately, I was extremely bad at tennis and pretty much every sport that I tried to play until age 11. At age 11, things got progressively worse. I got a very severe chest asthma. I used to wake up every night unable to breathe properly. I don't think I could complete one lap around the 400-meter track. But then my parents got extremely worried. They took me to a doctor. He said, Omar has this type of asthma that will disappear when he's in his 20s, but if he wants to do something about it, he should start playing sports consistently and vigorously. From the next day, I started waking up 2-3 hours before school and running. Within weeks and months, my lungs expanded and I stopped using the medication the doctor had prescribed. I played regular sports, but I'd never thought about climbing mountains until something happened at the age of 16 that changed the course of my life for the years to come. And that is that I had the opportunity of going to Switzerland and climbing a very small mountain. In fact, it was the first time I'd ever seen snow. I was taken back by the beauty of the mountains and the sense of peace and calm that I find when I'm there, but mostly the sense of challenge. Because when you climb a mountain, you're not challenging the mountain or the elements because they're far stronger than you. You're challenging your own weakness of the body, your own weakness of the mind to achieve that goal. And I believe this is one of the most pure form of endeavors. With the simplicity of a 16-year-old, I decided, well, if I could climb this small mountain, then I could climb the highest mountain in the world, Everest. But after a bit of research, I realized it's going to take much longer than I thought, and it's much harder than I ever anticipated. So rather than forget about it, I decided why not break down that one big goal, Everest, into smaller, more achievable parts. And I began a 12-year-long journey of climbing progressively harder mountains until in 2007, climbing Everest became a logical goal. I could probably spend hours talking about that expedition, but in the interest of time, I want to share with you one story from that Everest expedition. And it was about 7 weeks into the expedition. We were going to Camp 3, which is where we set up camp to get ready to go for the summit. And there was a team member started 45 minutes before us. And we climbed for about 2 hours to reach the bottom of a very steep face. When we got to the bottom of the face, we found his body on the ground. When we came closer, we realized that he'd passed away. And of course, we know that the amount of people that don't make it are about 4%. And we're supposed to be ready for this. But when you see it firsthand, it's extremely scary. And actually, it's quite terrifying. And what you think about is that you can't continue and you need to go back. And what I realized is that when you are up against something so difficult and dangerous, you question why it is that you're doing this thing. And if you don't believe in what you're doing, you're never going to go with it. And to me, fortunately, I knew exactly why I was doing what I was doing. First, I wanted to prove to myself that that same asthmatic kid could stand on the top of the world where there was very little oxygen. And secondly, I felt the responsibility of representing my country as the first Egyptian to attempt to do so, and I wasn't going to back down. And so a few days later, I managed to take the final steps to the summit of Mount Everest. And let me tell you, standing on the top of the world, looking down, was an amazing feeling. We're so high, you can see actually the curvature of the earth. It was a very proud moment for me after 12 years. And so, as I was going back, I was extremely happy with myself, but I could sense, there was a sense of sadness as well. And I didn't understand why. When I realized that I had been so attached to this goal that I wake up every day dreaming about and working towards and striving for. And I realized that I needed to have a much bigger goal, something else to push forward to. So in 2008, I decided to climb the highest mountain on every continent, something known as the 7 Summits. And in 2013, I managed to become the first Egyptian ever to complete this challenge. There's about 4,000 people in history who have climbed Mount Everest. about 400 have climbed the 7 summits, but only 40 people who've done something known as the Adventure Grand Slam. And that is the feat of climbing the 7 summits and skiing to both the geographic North and South Pole. In December of last year, I managed to be the first Egyptian to ski to the geographic South Pole, and hopefully next month in April, I will be attempting to reach the geographic North Pole. And I have to thank CIB Bank actually for sponsoring this expedition. Thank you. But there's one goal that was much older than climbing mountains. Probably like many of you here, when I was age 10 or 11, I dreamed of going to space as a little boy. And probably that dream was a very distant dream because in Egypt we don't have a space program. But in 2013, all of this changed. There was a competition that would allow somebody to win an opportunity to go to space. I quickly applied, but only got disappointed a little bit later to realize that 2 million people had applied from 68 countries. So I decided that I might as well go with it. And after about a few months of preparation and training and hard work, I was selected as the only Arab to win this competition. And it was a great moment for me to receive the ticket to go to space from one of my childhood heroes, Buzz Aldrin, who was the second man on the moon. Thank you. If I'm able to go to space next year, if I'm able to be successful and to reach the North Pole next month, I will be the first human in history to have completed these set of challenges. And it gives me goosebumps to be able to do something like that, which I've been working on for more than 20 years. But it even gives me more pride to be able to put the name of Egypt next to something like that. I'd like to share with you a short video that I think captures the emotions and trials and tribulations of these types of adventures more than my words ever could. If we can have the video, please.
My name is Omar Samra. I specialize in dragging myself and heavy objects to high and cold places.
On the 17th of May 2007, Omar Samra became the first Egyptian and youngest Arab to summit the Earth's highest mountain.
Wanted to prove to myself that that same 11-year-old asthmatic kid could stand on top of the world where it had very little oxygen.
Of South America. It's been an epic, epic day.
Thank you. So you might wonder what I do for a living. In a former life, actually, I used to be an investment banker and private equity professional. I did my MBA at London Business School. 6 years ago, searching for a way to give back, I decided to start up a company called Wild Guanabana. It's an adventure travel company that aims to take people outside of their comfort zone and allow them to understand more about the world and themselves through adventure. We also focus on working with youth to create character building and experiential learning programs, and also for corporate teams. We probably have taken about 1,000 Arabs to the summits of mountains all around the world, and it's been a humbling experience seeing so many Arabs come from different walks of life and from different countries to achieve a goal together. And it's given me great comfort and proof that as Arabs from different countries, we can work together in a very difficult situations, harsh, hostile environments, and under tremendous pressure. Most recently, I'm working on something called Rock and Rope, which hopes to develop Egypt's mountainous regions using nature-inspired adventure parks. What we're trying to do is create programs that benefit youth, but also it's a great way of creating jobs and also boosting tourism. Traditionally, Egypt has disregarded mountain developments in favor of coastlines, which we see has the most value in terms of business. But we aim to change that because we believe that the mountainous regions of Egypt can be developed to create jobs and to boost tourism as well. And so we want to do that because we have huge expanses of land that are mountains in Sinai and other places. I'm a great believer that space travel and space exploration is something that's extremely important. And I'm currently working with this gentleman here, Mohammed Salem, who's been shortlisted for the Mars One project. And for those who don't know it, it's the project that aims to put settlers on Mars in 2024. And it's amazing that an Egyptian is actually shortlisted for this endeavor. Together, we're trying to raise awareness and working on a few projects to bring space exploration and travel and the importance of that to the forefront of our imagination as Egyptians. I think today it might seem like something that is far-fetched, but I believe that this is something that should be extremely important for us and at the forefront of our endeavor in Egypt. And I believe that aiming very high like this, I think is something that is extremely important and worth valuing. And finally, I see things differently now. I think it's no longer about the mountains and just being first. I know now that I have a responsibility to inspire youth and to tell the story. That's why towards the end of this year, I aim to visit 100 schools and universities across the 28 governorates of Egypt to tell the story. What I'm trying to say is, I'm trying to tell them that the limits that exist only exist in their own minds. And if they set their mind to it, they can achieve everything that they want. Thank you. As I stand before you now with a couple of challenges ahead of me, space and the North Pole, and Egypt stands in front of greater challenges, I'm reminded by the words of T.S. Eliot, only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. Thank you very much.
Omar Samra, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much indeed, Omar. You'll find your name here somewhere, so if you have a seat. And Bob, if you can send the rest of the panelists out, we'll get this underway, and I will introduce you to them as they take their seats. But everybody's got a story, and there have been some great stories over the past 3 days. Let me tell you one. It was September last year. I met a young man who had given up his job. It was a job in high finance, serious stuff, but he wanted to do something different. The calling came to him, and so he gave that job up. He and some of his colleagues, they wanted to put together a tournament for street children, a football tournament for street children. So from having everything he could possibly have dreamed of, he gave it up to give it back to a section of society and people who had nothing. The project was so attractive that multinationals, McDonald's, Coca-Cola amongst them, they came to him and his colleagues and they said, "We will give you millions of dollars to sponsor this." They turned them all down. They wanted to maintain an identity, presumably a connection with the city in which this project was going to take place. So it was just 2 days ago, I got his latest news, and it's very good. The League for Street Children is going to begin in September. In October, some of the children are going to represent their country. This is unbelievable. The Homeless World Cup 2015, this year in the Dutch city of Amsterdam. They've also been invited to the Street Children's Olympics in Brazil in 2016, obviously tied to the Rio Olympics in that year. And finally, the country where this project is taking place, the Ministry for Sport has been in touch to offer its support. So where's it all happening? Well, its name is Nafas, which in Arabic means, well, it's Arabic for one breath in English. And the motto, the bigger aim, is no child should live on the street. And the reason for telling you all of this is that it's happening in Cairo, okay? It's all in Cairo. One of the people who put this thing together is here today. Kareem, wherever you are, if you can stand up, okay? This is Kareem, just one of the guys who's doing this project for the street children of Cairo. The league is going to begin in September. They're going to the World Cup. Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Let me introduce you to our panel. Dr. Ashraf Sobhi is Assistant to the Egyptian Minister of Youth and Sports. I mean, all of these titles are self-explanatory. And we have Dr. Rania Elwani, who's a founder of the Egyptian Olympians Association, a member of the International Olympic Committee's Medical Commission. And what impresses me most, apart from the fact that you're a doctor, is that you swam for Egypt at 3 Olympics. You are the Arab world's most successful Olympic female swimmer. We have Sir Hugh Robertson, Member of Parliament in the United Kingdom, and your connection to sport is not only were you a Minister for Sport, but you were the Minister for the Olympics. London 2012 was, by all accounts, and most people agree, one of the greatest Olympic Games ever. Omar Samra, you've already met. Samy is sitting next to Omar, Chairman of Wadi Degla Investment. Magid has also held positions as Chairman of Wadi Degla Sporting Club, just promoted to the Premier League last season.
No, in 2010.
2010, so quite recently, but still, you're with the big boys now, so congratulations. Also, Chairman, you have held the position of Chairman of Wadi Degla Football. And Albert Speer is here. Albert is founder and managing partner of AS&P Germany. This company is one of the best-known architectural and urban planning companies in Germany. Albert was part of the firm involved in, amongst many other sporting projects, Qatar's successful bid to host the 2022 FIFA World Cup. And at the end there, you have the chairman of what is officially world football's most successful club, Alhy, okay? Yeah. Mahmoud Taher is here. Okay, so welcome to all of you. And probably we should pick up with this issue of sport and social inclusion as quickly as we can. But I wanted to start just with a general point to you, Dr. Sobhi. Give us an emotional assessment of the relationship between the Egyptian people and sport. What does it mean to the people of Egypt, this massive thing called sport?
Firstly, thank you very much for being here, and hi, everybody. Actually, we have in Ministry of Sports our vision, our plan, our SWOT analysis for the short term, mid-term, and actually our strategy term till maybe you are doing and we are preparing for 2030. So in small term, actually, as per our analysis, we know the market in sports actually, and what we and demands of the market. We have to declare that in the market positioning, we have like 3.2 EGP billion. It's the market for non-profit organizations. 4 to 5 times it's for the profitable organizations expenditures in the market of Egyptian sport. Because of that, during our preparing for the new sports law, we highlight and focus on this point to release the sports, if we could say that. Because of that, we gave the right to the whole organizations, and especially the clubs, for doing their own companies and invest their own. It's very important, and it's demands needs for the people who feel the sports and feel demands and feeling the problem of the sports. We have 2 lines for our vision and strategy. Actually, one of it is that sports for all, how to release everything and give the rights for the people to practice and have the community centers and have the place to practice the sport. Actually, at this point, we set the projects and plan of action as per the times, as I mentioned, for the short term, for the midterm and extra. Because of that, we have a very fast actions for development, the infrastructures for the courts. So we have sort of a numbers for these issues actually for the courts. Because of that, we have investment for 470 EGP millions for infrastructure of 1,540. It's for small size courts. As well, 99 development for the normal size. It's for the community centers. We call it Marakesh Shabab. We have, it's out of 4,500. We almost reach 50% of it. Out of this one, we have investment of 200,000,051. It's for, we call it Markaz Shabab al-Gezira, the ideal and biggest youth center in Egypt. This is for the youth. I will convert to the sports area. We have investment for 1 billion EGB. It's the budget for starting for 2013 till 2015. In this area, we have 150. It's a small size courts, artificial turf. As well, we have a swimming pool. It's 40 swimming pool complex. We go for the indoor dome. We have development for a new era of 5 new indoor dome. As well, we have it's individual 5, a new one, individual hall. It's for we call it karate and whatever. It's 5 new era. We develop new 4 stadiums. It's Bani Suef, Aswan, Banha, Sohaj. We have 7 stadiums. We make it for safety and security. It's total out of 14. We finished for this one 7. Actually, we go for the other area. It's for the competition. So we have Rio de Janeiro plan. So we invest and release and give the finance for our federation for it. And we plan for 2020. So we have our national projects for it. We prepare from now till 22 and 2024.
Okay, those are all projects that are going to benefit huge sections of Egyptian society. But you know what I was trying to ask you? Well, I was trying to get to the point if you wear the Egyptian national shirt when the football team plays a big match. You know, I want to hear about the emotion. Dr. Elwani, tell me about when you came back from the Olympic Games, the reaction that you used to get when you would go out shopping or something, people coming to you. Did you get the idea of what sport meant to the people watching?
Yes, I was first, I'm very lucky to be here today, so I thank you for the invitation. I want to say I'm here today because of sport, and it changed my life from the time I was 6 years old when I chose a certain sport to the time when I became a medical doctor and then even still continue to volunteer in the international movement of sport. Being an athlete was a joy in itself. Seeing the appreciation from people in the streets is bigger joy. But the sport of swimming is not as popular in Egypt as other sports. I was very, very lucky to be one of the few that were remembered in the streets. I was even luckier later to be on the board of the Alhy club, and I think I got more positive feedback from being on that board than being who I am, just Rania, you know, she's from the Alhy club. So it's a big asset, and we learned a lot of sports management in that place where I started as an athlete, and then I ended up in sports management. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk about the other things yet, or should I just answer your question?
Anything you want.
I think,
as you all can.
First of all, of course, yes, we thank the government for providing all the infrastructure that we need. But for me as an athlete and going through all the stages of my life as a career and as a mother and as a part of the community, I think the real asset is the people. And developing a human being through sport is very valuable. As we mentioned, or as we heard from Omar, sorry, I'm not going to speak as we heard from Omar earlier, that once you become a well-known athlete, you become a role model and a leader to a whole generation, whether you like it or not. As we heard earlier, also, we have 35 million Egyptians that are youth, and to teach them life values and life commitments and the values that sport gives us is very important to be able to build up our community. So we are trying to follow the model of the International Olympic Committee. The IOC has created the Athlete Career Program, and it's not a program for athletes to be better athletes. It's a program for athletes to be able to continue their careers after sport, to have the proper assets, to have the proper education. We did that in Egypt now through the Egyptian Olympians Association. We're trying to do it through legends in sport like Mohamed Rashwan, like hopefully we'll get Omar intrigued to be a part of this. And then we want to do the other side of it. We don't want just the athletes to have good jobs and good sponsorships and good careers and good education. We want the 35 million Egyptian youth to have opportunities in sport that would build their personality. Sport doesn't have to be Olympic Games and World Championships. Sport can just be a lifestyle that creates a balanced individual. This is the individual we need to build our community. And I'm hoping we all can work together through this Egyptian Olympians Association and the other NGOs, including Sport for Development, to educate the youth of Egypt, provide them all the values that we have been taught through sport, provide sport through the youth centers all over Egypt. We have the assets, we have the potential, and trust me, we have the money in sport. And I'm sure we'll hear about it from the professional side of sports management. We just need the youth to get along, and we need to really trust that the real potential of Egypt lies in its 35 million youth, and we need to trust that sport can change this community through its values.
And let's pick up on exactly those points, because you're looking over there, and I'm thinking Magid and Mahmoud.
That's the business side of sport.
Yeah. Magid, you have some specific examples of the social responsibility of sport and how you're involved on that side. And Mahmoud, I can imagine that the size of your club, which is a sporting club, not just football, of course, must play some role as well in the social responsibility of getting out into the community, not just providing the entertainment on the pitch. So let's start with you, Mahmoud, first, then Magid will come to you.
Well, actually, of course, I'm proud to be here representing the Ahli Club, which is the biggest brand in the in the Egyptian sports, and I think in the Middle East and Africa, being the biggest and number one club. And as you said, just Adnan, now it's not just football. It's the Ahli carries a lot of responsibilities, social responsibilities, sports responsibilities. The sports responsibilities as a brand have let us come into this economic forum. And it is, and as I told President Sisi the other day, I told him the Ahli being here in an economic forum is a message for where Egypt is going. I think sports has become an industry. It's an investment thing now. We have to look for investments in sports, which is the first time in the history of Egypt to be represented as a sports entity in an economic forum, to have this pride of Egypt figures and symbols with us. It's really, there is a message we are giving here through this forum that sports is very important. And I will just briefly or quickly say, I mean, we just came back from Algeria. We were playing, Ahli was playing in Algeria the other day, less than a month ago. And we had some problems with the national teams of Algeria and Egypt. And actually, the political problem was solved by this visit. And this shows how sports can play a really big role in the political, economical, social. Ahli has about 750,000 population members, true members in this club, 140,000 families. So we do have a heavy responsibility, and we have to keep marketing this brand and spreading the sports spirits and the economical benefits of it will go back to the members, to the fans, to the country. So yes, the Alhy should be, as always, a pioneer in introducing this new direction into a sort of what we're all proud of being here today. And the messages that came out of this forum, I think, is great so far, and is having a very, very big positive energy coming out to the people of Egypt. And I'm sure there will be a completely new atmosphere and attitude, not only in the business side of it, but in the sports side, which will give us all a good opportunity to take back Egypt where it belongs.
Mahmoud, thank you very much. Don't forget, it's ask@egyptthefuture.com. That's the email address, ask@egyptthefuture.com if you have any questions. We've only got 20 minutes, but the time may be extended. We have a little surprise for you at the end. I won't ruin it. Okay, Magid, this video that you've been showing people in the green room before we waited to come out here, you sent it to me and I couldn't open it. My technology is too old-fashioned, sorry, but it's something about social responsibility, the sports influence on everyday people. Am I correct?
Yeah, in fact, I want to add something to what was said, that sports is very important in this period of the country because it can reunite this country. This country needs to reunite again, and sports is the easiest way to reunite. I think we have to go after one ambition. I have heard Omar saying a great statement. Limits are just in your mind. There is no limit. And this country needs to set a sportive limit, a sportive ambition, and to go for it. And I think this is one thing that can reunite this country. This is the most important thing we need to push our country towards. The video I tried to send you was an ambitious project that our company has implemented 7 years ago, where we sponsor the lives of 12-year-old kids, street kids, or kids that doesn't have the capacity to be members of expensive clubs and go to those famous branded soccer schools. We sponsored the life of 9 kids. They were 12 years old. Today they are 19 years old, and each one of them is worth 1 million euros. So we have changed really the lives of those boys, and this is something that we really need to do. We don't have to limit the sports to those who can afford. We have to go to every place in the country. We have to reunite with the sports. I personally have a dream. In 2030, it will be 100 years since the beginning of the World Cup. It will be the 100th anniversary of the World Cup, because it started in 1930. And I have a dream to see this competition being organized by my country. I think it's going to be one very tempting reason for the people of this country to reunite, whatever their political views are, whatever their social standard is. We need to reunite after something, and my hope is to see my country fighting for the 100th anniversary of the World Cup, because we deserve it. We are one of the oldest civilizations in the world. And I have beside me someone who helped Qatar win the 2022. So I think I will have a chat with him after.
He actually helped us for the Mediterranean Games as well. And I think he has a plan for the Olympics, right? You had a study for the Olympic Games in Egypt as well.
Okay, Albert, listen, we'll pick up on that point in a second. But actually, Magid, you lead straight into what I wanted to ask Sir Hugh about. Because, Sir Hugh, the London Olympics were so hugely popular all over the world. The organization was tremendous. The venues were superb. But when it was announced that London got the Olympic Games, the initial assessment from the government at the time was that it wouldn't cost more than, I think it was maximum, £2.53 billion. I believe it ended up costing more than double that, right? Is that what Egypt has to spend to get something like a World Cup? What are the benefits of spending those huge amounts of money on infrastructure? Do you always see a return?
Well, I suppose the honest answer to that is that it depends how you define return, doesn't it? I mean, if you look at the legacy that's come out of London 2012, it's been worth much, much more than the investment that we put into it. And that legacy has come in a number of areas. It's come in terms of the way it recalibrates the way that the world looks at you. That leads to business contracts, to extra tourism. It regenerates areas. If you do an Olympics and a Paralympics, it's had an incredibly beneficial impact on disability in my country. The community involvement in it has meant that every time we lay any sort of sports event on or any sort of event, you have 5 times more volunteers than they need for the event. And crucially, and it goes back to the point we were talking about earlier, it's really inspired a generation of younger people to take up sport. So you've got those 5 very distinct benefits: economic, regeneration, sport, social, the sort of community benefits, and the disability ones if you have a Paralympic Games. So there is there's a huge benefit. And just to say one thing, it is absolutely right, the cost of the Games very nearly tripled, but they tripled because having won it, we then saw what we could do on the back of it, and then produced much bigger plans than we'd had at the bidding stage.
Dr. Sobey, you wanted to say something?
Yes, actually, as a professor in sports management, as well in my position, we analyzed very well what they have done for this 2012. So they go for the legacy management, and they import this one for the Qatar, actually. So they go for the poorest area. It's the east of London. So they make a total development for this one, with the infrastructures, with the facilities for everything. And they use it after 2012. So we have the vision, something related to these issues after analyzed, and we put it in our plan. So we go for four big projects, actually, and we go for the PBB with the Minister of Finance. So we release these projects. Actually, it's sort of legacy management and legacy of our people for the planning to have this vision for Mr. Samy, as we prepare ourselves, not because of the big event, but we have to prepare ourselves, and we mix everything, speaking here, because of if the football FA, they have their slogan to say, using the power of the football. So in Egypt, we try to use the power of the sports to change the lifestyle for the people, the health, the social movement, and a lot of details. Actually, we put it in our mind to do our best on it.
Okay,
sorry, Adnan, if I can cut in for a second.
Yes, go on.
As part of the International Olympic Committee, that's what the importance of bringing international competitions to countries is known, and that's why there is the Youth Olympic Games, there's World Championships, I think I can see the Youth Olympic Games happening in Egypt soon, because that was the main reason, to create a low-cost game so that people can start learning the little tricks and way of running the Olympic Games. It is hectic, but it's very profitable. And for us, we need it for the development of our youth, of course.
It's fantastic that you've said that, because it addressed just this question that I've received on the tablet, which Sir Hugh has also answered. So I don't think we need to ask the panel again, but the question came: how can you balance the expenditure of big sporting events with the short-term capital costs, especially in countries that need investment in areas such as hospital or roads? But you've both said that there are returns that you get which are not just financial as well. Okay, and we will also come on to that. You just mentioned health, Dr. Sobey, but before we do talk about the benefits, the health benefits, Albert, you were nodding your head a few times when Magid was talking about reuniting a people, because of course sport is about identity, but also when talking about big infrastructure projects. To be honest, you can say anything you want, but the question I want to put to you is, when Qatar came to you and said, look, we want these stadiums for the bid for the 2022 FIFA World Cup, you must clearly have got the idea from them that they were not selling or wanting to buy almost football, they were selling their country.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for the invitation. I'm very proud to be here at this conference. I have been working in Egypt over 10 years and in Arab countries about 40 years now. And one essential theme in all these countries is sports. And I think that sports had been underestimated in the health of the people and in the health of the youth. As you know, about 60% of the American people are too thick. This is because they are not doing enough sports. Coming to Qatar, from the beginning, we did the bidding for Qatar. We did the technical requirements for the FIFA, and we are told by the Qataris that we have to fulfill the FIFA regulations by 120%. We did it, and at the same time, we did something else. We told the Qataris, we don't want to build anything Qatar is not needing on a long-term basis. We built nothing only for the Olympic Games we can't use afterwards. And though we created stadiums which can be reduced again, and the parts of the stadiums can be shipped to other countries which are not as rich as Qatar. My opinion is that around the world, nothing has to be built only for World Games or for Olympic Games or other things. These white elephants, as we say, are have been done in the past. We have the technology, we have the ideas, we have the possibilities to do everything for the people and not for one event. We have done 5 years ago a study together. If Cairo can be hosting Olympic Games in the future, and the result of our study is that you have more Olympic feasible stadiums, swim stadiums, and other facilities than many other cities in the world. But they are not used. They are not maintained. They are in a very, very bad shape. So I think Cairo has the potential to host the first Olympic Games in Africa in the year 2028. And the facilities are here, and the chances to get it are very, very great.
So Hugh, you want to comment on this?
Yeah, I was just going to say very quickly, it's really good to hear that. And I think probably from somebody like me, that there are two things worth saying. The first is that the world's major sports events have to go to many more countries than they've gone in the past. They really have to, and that's why, and that's going to mean that we're going to have to disrupt the program in European football leagues and all the rest of it. It is going to have to happen because these events have got to go to a much wider audience. The second thing is that one of the things that we did that worked very well for us in London and will work brilliantly here is by all means build sports stadiums with the legacy in mind, with a permanent use in mind, but also make use of temporary venues. And if you look at a city like Cairo that has stunning backdrops, it's the oldest civilization anywhere in the world, you could create fantastic backdrops for the athletes to compete against, brilliant television pictures, and then once the thing's over, you can take it all down and send it to wherever it's most needed, and that's really important these days.
I'd like to put it on the record that given the FIFA investigation into Qatar 2022, the phrases buying and selling did not mean anything, okay? Okay, so let's talk about the health benefits of sport. And I'm going to come to you, Omar, about this, okay? Because Dr. Elwani and I were at a conference a few months ago. And Dr. Elwani, you were one of 5 doctors on that panel. There
yeah,
were
I think we killed you that day, didn't we?
Former Olympians.
We were talking about anti-doping that day,
Right.
so it was tiring, wasn't it?
Yeah. One of them was a French doctor who the French government made responsible for coming up with a program that would actively encourage and make, you can't force people to, of course, but actively encourage them, shall we say, to play sport. The NHS, the National Health Service in England, is using sport as a way to help people recover or deal with mental instability or any sort of issues that aren't physical, shall we say. It's already been calculated that an active lifestyle that's encouraged by central authorities, by government, can save national systems literally millions and millions and millions of dollars and pounds, okay? It's in double figures. So, Omar, a question has come on the tablet that when is the government going to start encouraging Egyptians to live a healthy and sporty lifestyle? But my question to you would be, can the private sector, Guanabana, can it do something?
Well, I think I'm an emotional guy, and so I'm always going to bring things back to the individual. I think over the last couple of days in the conference, we've seen, there's a huge infrastructure projects across all sectors. And a lot of the questions on people's minds is how is this going to trickle down to the individual? And I think sports is an industry where it's extremely easy. It's a low-hanging fruit where you can actually see a lot of impact on a grassroots level very easily. We Egyptians are extremely emotional people. You see that from sports like football, where it's akin to a religion, to even more individual sports like Rania was saying, swimming, which is traditionally not a spectator sport but receives a lot of attention when Egyptians do achieve to a sport like mine, which is completely not spectator sport, but I still find a lot of support from individuals and from the Egyptian population. As you said, I think that it's all well and good to have the big events, but I think, and that's important, and we should do that absolutely. But I think we need to capitalize, on this sort of pent-up energy, whether the individuals are actually practicing sports or spectators, to get as many people as possible engaged in actually practicing sports. Like you said, obviously there is lots of benefits from a health industry perspective of reducing spending on healthcare and the rest of it. But at the same time, going back to the individual, I think a person who's leading a healthy lifestyle, who's engaged in sports, is a much more healthy person, a much more plugged-in person into life. And I think if we all have a bit of that into our lifestyle, I think we all be much more motivated people, and I think it's a great thing.
Dr. Elwani, you wanted to say something?
Yes, it is of course proven that a healthy lifestyle reduces medical need in a country by 30 or 28 to 30%. So we do need to reduce that cost on the government for health, because we could use that money in other areas, of course. Going back to the youth, because I'm a little bit biased, 35 million Egyptians leading a healthy lifestyle, I think it will make us more productive. It will make us have healthier mothers, healthier babies, less burden on the society health-wise, but also it will develop the personality and the mental well-being. If you describe health, it's not just the physical health, it's also the capability to be a balanced individual, mentally strong to face everyday obstacles that we do face in our jobs. So I think for this 35 million people, we do need to integrate sport as a lifestyle and integrate sport into schools, and that's really a plea that I always do, always ask the Minister of Education, whoever he is, every time I keep insisting, we need to go back to sport being an integral part in the education system. This is why we all left our countries to go study, to continue our sport careers, but it's not just for the professional athletes. We need the whole generation, this coming generation, to be healthy and active and productive so that we can continue, hopefully from today, that we started to build our country, continue in the next generations.
Yeah. And yet, Dr. Sobi, it's not just about kids putting down T-shirts in a dirt field to play football, soccer. It's not just about running in the streets. It's about the infrastructure. There's a question here from Noha, who says, when will we again see sport in schools? And we need more neighborhood clubs right now. It's very hard, she says, to take kids to clubs that are an hour away. We need more clubs to reach the poor who can't afford membership of private clubs. And Margit, you'll be interested to know that Noha is a mother of 2 basketball players in the Degla club. Okay, so she has 2 kids. who play at the Degla club. They play basketball. Is that the same as Wadi Degla or different?
What was the question?
Is Wadi Degla also known as the Degla club?
Yeah, it's the same.
Yes. Okay, so this lady, Noha, has 2 kids who play basketball at your club. But I suppose the question to you is, Dr. Sobi, about
actually, I want to comment. Yes, I want to comment these issues. Actually, as a sports government and Minister of Sports, we go for non-university students. It's about 18 million. As well, we have actually 2.5 million in university. So we have a program and a plan for these people, cooperated with both ministries actually. For the other people, actually we released a program for the new playground, new courts in the streets. So we release in the future and very soon this kind of projects actually. We want to make it the sports lifestyle. Because of that, we have a measures for actually starting for 9 years in all Egypt governors. Actually, we measured the health efficiency for the sample. We got a sample. We reached till now a number more than 1,000 students to see the right situations of these kids, their capacity in physiology, in physical fitness. And we'll set up the program in the future for the program to increase this status. Because of that, we push and encourage the university program. We give this year's 4 million for the sports activity. As well, we restart the program with Ministry of Education, and we have a certain program in 13 million. To encourage this kind of a program because of the health visions for this kinds of age, starting before 9 and after this one till, you know, and everybody knows that 65% of our population is youth area. Because of this, we are doing the plan, and very soon we will see some of these results.
Mahmoud, yes, I was going to come to you, please.
Of course, with what's been said, there is a very important factor, which is the infrastructure. Yes. You have to give the infrastructure for all yes. what to encourage. And this is where the Alhy came, or this is how the idea of the stadium came from the Alhy, is we need to give the infrastructure without putting burden on the government, although we're having all the assistance from the Ministry of Youth and Sports. But all the organizations, either private or semi-private or official organization, has to start thinking of investing in the infrastructure. And this is how the stadium, and when we talk about infrastructure, we talk about best quality infrastructure, not just, that's why when we started looking for the stadium project, we looked for the top quality stadium. That's why we've chosen AS&P, Dr. Albert Speer, of course, and we are discussing with the best marketing companies for marketing the stadium. The feasibility or the business model have to be successful. You cannot just invest. We're talking about an investment of £3 billion, Egyptian pounds. So we have to start looking how are we going to get the return on this investment. And that's why the infrastructure is very important, and that's the role of the Alhy, is to add to the infrastructure of the country. And I urge everybody, including Samy, my dear friend, to start building another stadium and to start building a swimming complex and so forth, so that we can all finally fulfill his dream of celebrating the 100th the century FIFA. And we're going to work on it. We are going to work on it, inshallah.
Yes, Albert, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I think the sports as a profession, I think we can solve the problems. Sports for the people, we are only starting to solve the problems. We have done a master plan for Abu Dhabi and Qatar to qualify and to calculate the infrastructure which is needed in each quarter of the city for the young people to really do sports. And the legislation is now in both countries so that these sports facilities have to be built from the beginning by the investors who are doing a new settlement or what so on. I think all provinces in Egypt need such a master plan in sports, and this is very, very important. Without that, we can't really start.
Maged.
I just want to say one last thing. I think there is no country in the world that deserves and needs to host the 100th anniversary of the World Cup more than Egypt. So I want to insist on it again.
Yeah.
We deserve it and we need it. We don't just deserve it, we also need it badly. So I hope this statement wakes up people so that we start working on something to make our country better, because this is definitely going to make our country better. We will have to be good in 2030 to host a World Cup. We have to be a developed country, not a developing country.
You're on a personal mission, clearly, right? And obviously, best of luck to Egypt in trying to host an event like that. So Hugh, can we bring it slightly down to a more community-based level? Okay, we've been talking a lot about big, big projects. As you've traveled around the world, you must have seen so many different aspects of the impact that sport can have on the lives of people. Can you give us some examples that you think would be possibly a good fit for Egypt? I can give you lots, but people want to hear from you.
It's an old saying, but if you want to have a sports policy, you need three elements of it. You need to succeed at the elite level, because actually only if you, as we said in Britain, put people in the shop window, put your top athletes in the shop window, will you really inspire the next generation. Secondly, you need to have a plan in schools to make sure that people start playing sport as early as possible. We've made a bit of a mess of that at home by concentrating on people too late in life. Probably by the time you get to sort of 12, 13, particularly with girls, you're almost losing it, actually. You've really got to try and get them at 7 or 8. And then thirdly, you've got to have a proper community sports system so that when people have come out of the school system, they can then go on playing sport into their adult life. And if you get those three components right, then you'll have a proper joined-up system.
Okay, listen, I'm wondering whether we have the roving microphone anywhere, if there are no questions here on the tablet. We have some roving microphones, so if you want to ask any questions, please raise your hands and we'll try to get
Could I add on this?
Yes, exactly.
For the next level, because I think we talked about the grassroots and then the kids in school and then the kids at the elite level. And I'd like to also continue that those athletes and those not necessarily athletes, but the people who participated in sport throughout their life, when they go into their careers and when they're hired by companies like your own, you get qualities that are not present in other people that just went through their education and was not exposed to the obstacles and the values that sport would create for them. So I think the opportunity of sport goes beyond athlete's life and goes beyond the sports life. It goes well into your education at a higher level, your work and your work ethic. I think you develop a more reliable, productive individual, and that's what we need, really, to move on.
Yeah, I mean, from a social level, I've heard of cases of sport being played in some of the refugee camps in Jordan, where there's a lot of tension.
Generations for Peace, yes.
Yes, amongst the refugees and the local population. And the most simple idea is that if you play sport against somebody, you're less likely to want to fight them. It's that easy. Okay, let's have a question from over there. You holding the number 1. Yeah, can we have a question from there?
Hello, thank you very much for giving me the word. I'd like to ask mainly 3 questions. My name is Asir Nafa. I'm a student at the Faculty of Economics and Political Science at Cairo University. The first question is, what is the Ministry of Sport doing? Because we all know that the only or the major sport that is getting all the attention from the government and from the people is football. And don't get me wrong, I'm a football player, but this is completely unfair. Honestly, all sports should get the same attention from the government and from the people. The second question is, we need, let me say it in a question frame, but how will we improve youth or the age from kind of 15 to 17, not the professional, how will the country develop this sport within the community? Because I also see that all the attention is given to professionals and the national team, but to the youth, they are not getting all the attention. My third question is, how will the government help improve or develop the clubs, or not the big clubs, but the small clubs within different municipalities within Egypt? Not clubs, I'm sorry, but Alhy and Zamalek are getting all the attention, but clubs within different municipalities do need also attention and do need also support. So how are we going to be doing so?
Can I?
Thank you very much.
Okay. Actually,
it's kind of
because
three
of the time,
questions,
three
but
questions.
one,
But yes, the first, yes, okay. Actually, all the questions related to the government issues. Because of that, the football, it's associations. We give the health environment for the associations. Part of this one, the football, to manage the real football professionalism. We not as a government enter to the details of management for them, but we give the base of practice. Because of that, we actually go for the infrastructures for the course. We mentioned the number of the courses that we developed for the community centers, Marrakesh Shabab, as well for the club, and the open area courts. Because of that, we try to make the base vast, as well a huge number of the people to play, and we encourage the private sector. Because of that, Degla, they have 5 branches right now. I think, Mr. We have 5 branches of this one.
5 clubs.
5 clubs, branches of Wadi Degla. As well, Alhy, they have 2, and they are running over the 3rd one. Zamalek as well, they are going for the 2nd one. Al Said Club, they have actually, for the time being, they are 3 branches, and they're preparing for another. Actually, for the second improve 15 to 17s, it's a matter of the infrastructures. Because of the media, they focus on the football business. Because of that, everyone knows about the details of the football, but there are a lot of efforts for encourage this ages before 15, actually not 15, before 15, and 17s, it's going to 18, end of the university, starting the university, end of this one, 22. So we have the big efforts. We have the plan I mentioned for this kind of issues. It's going for actually the infrastructures, playgrounds, clubs, program. So we have a mixed program, a youth program, as well in sports program, covers this efforts, but we go for the media to announce this program very soon. The third question is?
It was about improving and developing smaller clubs rather than always concentrating on the big ones. And of course, you're so big, Mahmoud, you almost don't need the help. You've got such a massive base of support. I'm guessing that that's the case. But what about the smaller ones? Then?
Yes, the smaller one we have encouraged, and we have like monthly meeting with the head of this kind of clubs. So we search for their needs. We support whatever we support, but we don't forget we have to give them the release of actions. Because of that, the new sports law gave them the way to invest their own, the way to invest their assets. Because of if we give the money, it's not the matter of solutions, but we have to give them the tools to invest themselves.
Can I just say
yes,
one thing? Sorry. I'm a great believer in that entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs are the real engine for growth for this economy in the next coming 5 to 10 years. And I think that we can always say that we'll depend on the government for everything, but at the end of the day, this panel proves that there is a lot of big businesses operating in the sports industry quite successfully. But under the radar, there is like hundreds of companies, small, medium enterprises that are in the sports industry that are doing tremendous work. And I think the next thing that needs to happen is that these companies, these entrepreneurs need to collaborate with the government, because the government can't do everything. And so they need to collaborate with the government, be empowered by the government.
Omar, I'm not interacting or doing these cross-sections. Actually, we believe in outsource plan. With our ministry, we think about it, how to could go with the private sector. we think out very, very hard because of the private sector is very important for the sport, very important to push the sports movement and the club. Because of that, if we go for this Marrakech Shabab, youth centers, community centers, and instead of give the finance injections, we build the infrastructure and we give them the law to use their facilities. Actually, if we support them an average of 20 to 30,000, whatever the period of this one, they bring the money from this infrastructure actually monthly by the amount that if we give annually. So we think and we believe that that sports law is very important to release them to work and to give them the free to work, the free to release the companies and make the companies the way to cooperate with the private sectors and outsource plan. It's very important to think about it instead of the give and to inject the direct finance for it. Although we give the finance injection for them as per the priority and to prioritize themselves, so we give the very big action in it for their needs as a priority. In actually, as I mentioned, in monthly meeting, we mention and discuss their own needs, and we push this kind of finance.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sobi. So just a final thought is that this French doctor that I mentioned earlier, he said there is no such thing as too much sport, and that's the message he's given the French government. Someone came up to him after he made that statement and said, I don't think that's completely correct. If I do 3 marathons in 3 days, that's too much. The doctor said to him, he said, if you do 5 marathons in 5 days, that's not too much. Your body will tell you when to stop. If you do 5 marathons in 5 days, you will only be doing what Napoleon's soldiers did before they won the Battle of Austerlitz. So there is no such thing as too much sport. Ladies and gentlemen, the sports panel, thank you very much indeed. And as you make your way off the stage, we can welcome into the plenary hall His Excellency the